I never believed I could fall in love with the person hired to guard my life. I always thought of bodyguards as detached, professional, forever a step removed. But the night danger broke through the wall of safety she'd built around me. When everything went wrong and she failed to keep me safe, she changed my entire world with a kiss that was part apology, part confession, part electric beginning. That was the moment I realized I never wanted to feel safe with anyone else. Before I begin, tell me what city you rewatching from and don't forget to subscribe. It's what helps this little channel about women loving women grow and find more people who crave stories like this one. My name is Riley James. Most people know me as a tech entrepreneur, but that's just the part they see in headlines. At heart, I'm someone who used to believe the right plan could keep life under control. For a long time, that worked. I built my company from nothing, made it through college on scholarships and stubborn hope. Built friendships and routines in a city that rewards anyone who can work late and drink enough coffee. Threats didn't start until success did. At first, they felt almost cartoonish. A string of nasty emails from a rival, a couple of prank voicemails, the uncertainty that someone out there knew more about me than I wanted. Then it escalated. One night, someone broke into my car, scattering the contents but taking nothing. Another, I came home to find my apartment door ajar and muddy footprints on the tile. The police couldn't approve anything and my board forced my hand. It is time for security. I hated the idea of a bodyguard. I pictured shadows and sunglasses or men who never cracked a smile. But then Erin showed up at my office one frosty September morning, reading silently in the lobby as she waited for our appointment. She stood when I entered, her height commanding but her eyes strangely gentle. She introduced herself as Erin Park. Quiet, direct, no wasted words. Her handshake was firm, her smile quick and rare, her tone full of the calm of someone who has seen real danger and doesn't need to remind you of it. She laid out her plan with the discipline of her army background. We would change my routines, rotate my travel, upgrade my locks and digital security. She'd drive me to work, check all locations before I entered, be present at every event for the foreseeable future. Her price was steep, but her references were bulletproof. She called me Miss James for the first week, and I honestly thought that would be the extent of our relationship. Protect the principal, move on. That's how she made it sound. Erin was efficient to the point of invisibility. In elevators, she'd fade into a corner but her gaze missed nothing. When we'd walk together, she'd always keep herself between me and anyone we passed without drawing attention. I didn't know how to live with constant company, but I had no choice. At first, I resented needing her. I didn't want someone managing my life, let alone someone who looked at me with such intent focus. I sometimes forgot where we were going. Then I started noticing her in the in-between moments. How her shoulders relaxed a little once I was home safe and the doors were locked each night. How during long car rides, her playlist alternated between hip-hop and old-school punk, and she actually sang along when she thought I was dozing. When I missed lunch for a deadline, I'd find snack bars stashed in my laptop bag. Some part of me softened every time she glanced at me with a quick smile or asked, almost shyly, if I got enough sleep. For a while, our bond was unspoken. I learned little things, like how Erin takes her coffee black but eats chocolate chip cookies by the handful. She never talked about her family, but she asked about mine. I told her about my mom in Chicago, my frustrations with my job, my love for painting late at night when my mind was too busy to sleep. She would listen with attention so fierce it felt like sunlight. I found myself looking forward to the 5 minutes before meetings when we'd talk about nothing weather. Books, the dumb sitcom I'd stayed up watching. Erin became a secret joy in a season of fear. I started teasing her about her stoicism, and she surprised me by teasing back. Once, when someone at a party asked if she ever smiled, she winked at me and replied, only for the right people. That moment made me ridiculously giddy. The next morning, she brought me coffee with a smiley face doodled on the cup. Her walls were coming down, slow and careful, but it made each inch feel precious. But beneath it all, the tension grew. I never let myself name what I wanted. There were too many rules, too much danger. A professional line we were never supposed to cross. Then the night came that everything changed. It was a Thursday, one of those bone-cold nights after a week of gray rain. We'd hosted a company launch event, a rare, extravagant party in a glassy conference space downtown. Aaron had swept the building beforehand, coordinated entrances, checked every background. I was exhausted, but my nerves buzzed with stress and the faint sick feeling I'd learned to live with now that someone out there might want more than to just ruin my day. After the event, Erin drove me back to my apartment building. Her posture was tense, her eyes scanning every car, every shadow. We parked in the underground garage and she insisted on checking the elevator first. Satisfied, she called me in, and we started toward the elevator bay, surrounded by too much cold concrete. That's when it happened. A sharp sound to our right, a blur of movement. My mind went blank with fear. A man stepped out of the darkness, his face covered, something glinting in his hand. Erin had just enough time to push me behind her. Her voice was steady, fierce, telling me to stay back while she moved between us and the attacker. For the first time since I met her, I saw her falter. The man slashed with a knife, catching Erin across her arm. She hissed in pain, knocked him off balance, but he swung again, sending her stumbling. I saw blood on her sleeve, her breath coming short and fast. Panic froze my lungs. I tried to reach for my phone, but fumbled it to the ground. Erin struggled to stay between us, but the attacker was relentless, shouting threats I barely heard. Then bright lights flashed from across the garage security guards, late but not too late. The attacker turned and fled, disappearing before help could arrive. Emergency workers brought us upstairs, patched up Erin's arm, took our statements. I barely heard their questions. All I could think about was Erin, her pain, the trembling I saw in her jaw even as she tried to calm me down. I realized in that moment I'd never been more terrified, not just for myself but for her. For this woman who had made me feel seen and safe and wanted every single day. We sat side by side on my couch, silence thick between us but our hands inches apart on the cushion. Erin refused to meet my eyes, her voice quiet and defeated. "I'm sorry, Riley, I failed you." She looked so lost, so unlike herself, that I wanted to reach for her but hesitated. "You didn't fail me," I insisted. "You got hurt in my place. You saved me." She let out a low breath and closed her eyes. "That's my job." But tonight, I was slow. I hesitated. I couldn't let her finish. "Erin, nobody else would have done more." I paused, my voice barely a whisper. "I care about you so much. For months I've wanted to tell you, but I thought I'd be crossing a line." She turned to me with so much longing in her eyes it hurt. "You're not crossing anything." She took my hand in hers, gentle but desperate. For so long I told myself this was just a job. But all I could think about tonight was losing you. I can't pretend anymore. The quiet was electric. I put my other hand over hers, feeling her pulse, her warmth. "I want you here with me. Not as my bodyguard. Just as you." Erin blinked hard, her eyes shining. "Don't say that unless you mean it." I leaned in before I could lose my nerve, capturing her lips with mine. For a beat, she was still, and then she melted into me, her kiss gentle and full of all the words we'd never said. Her mouth tasted like hope, like relief, like all the ache I'd carried for a year poured out at once. When we finally broke apart, she pressed her forehead to mine, both of us laughing and crying a little, in the messy, beautiful way adrenaline brings. "Can I stay?" she asked, her voice trembling for the first time. I smiled through tears and pulled her against me. "Don't ever leave." That night, neither of us slept much. We lay tangled on the couch, hands exploring, tracing old scars and new dreams, learning each other's stories in whispered pieces until sunrise. It was new, tender, full of mistakes and laughter and the gentle joy of finding something neither of us thought we'd deserve. I fell asleep with Erin's arm around me, feeling safer and freer than I ever had before. The aftermath was less like an ending and more like a beginning. Erin resigned from her position as my bodyguard, her decision, made the next morning, respecting every rule she once lived by. She recommended someone else to keep me safe. We took things slowly, but our relief was unmistakable. The hardest boundaries were gone. Our days filled with quiet rituals, the sweetness of normalcy after so much fear. We worked, cooked dinner, took long walks in parks after dusk, holding hands like teenagers. Erin met Kat and my friends. She told them embarrassing stories about how difficult I could be at first, and then sat quietly while I painted and let her read her new novels in my studio. Months later, threats seemed like a distant storm. We'd talk sometimes about that night in the garage, not as victims or warriors, but as people who had survived and learned what it was to risk everything for one moment of honesty. Erin still had nightmares sometimes. So did I. When they came, we held each other, reminding ourselves that there is no safety more real than the trust we had built. A year later, I took Erin back to the very spot in the parking garage, both of us nervous and laughing at how normal it all seemed in the daylight. I brought her hand to my chest and told her, this is where everything changed, not just because we survived, but because we let ourselves feel it all. No more hiding, no more pretending. She grinned and kissed me there, murmuring, "You're the best thing I ever failed at." We built a life from what was left when all the walls fell down, a life of morning coffee, shared secrets, weekend trips, silly traditions, and unspoken gratitude that we discovered bravery not in dodging danger, but in letting each other in. If you're still watching, thank you. Tell me if you've ever fallen for someone in the most impossible way, or if you found your own happy ending starting in a moment when everything seemed lost. Don't you forget to subscribe for more stories like this. It means the world and helps this channel keep telling new tales about love, courage, and the women who choose each other. I fell for my bodyguard. The night she failed to protect me, she kissed me instead. And in that kiss, I learned that sometimes surrendering your fear is safer than every plan in the world. Sometimes letting love break through your defenses is the bravest thing you'll ever do.